Well, that just happened. Thank you. I'm going to kill myself. So about a week before my last video, I put up a poll for the next video topic. The last poll I did went pretty well, and I have a few character analysis ideas, so I thought, hey, might as well let strangers on the internet decide which one I cover. And if there was any prediction on what would happen, for one, I wouldn't have predicted a tie, and for two, I wouldn't have predicted that the tie would be between Kanji from Persona 4, a 60+ hour JRPG with tons to dig into, and Louie from Pikmin. I'm not complaining, mind you, he's on the list for a reason. I've got a lot to say about him. It was just the circumstance of it that I find funny, and I don't know what it necessarily says about the people watching my videos. But since it was a tie, here's the deal. Today we'll talk about Louie, and the next video, as in not down the line, but the next video I release after this one, will be on Kanji. Louie is getting his first because Kanji has a lot more dialogue and a lot more screen time in a much longer game. So this lets me take a bit more time on that video while still diving into a character that I want to talk about. It's just Louie is from a series where not only is story not massively focused on, they're all combined still shorter than Persona 4, so it's a lot easier to dig into within a 2-week period. But preamble over, Louie was one of the winners, so let's talk about him. Pikmin is one of the best series Nintendo has its grubby little hands on. Despite a lot of people seeing it as neglected, I just see each game as individual art pieces. They take a very long time to put together, but when we finally get to see them, they just make you sit with your jaw on the floor. They're all so good that honestly, I'd be satisfied if the series had stopped at any point, yet every decade or so, we get another one that's an absolute triumph. Now, that primarily pertains to things like gameplay, visuals, music, that sort of thing, not really story. Nobody really cares about the plot of Pikmin 4. We like talking about the atmosphere, the level design, the different dungeons, the fact that the game has no Switch 2 update, Nintendo, what is the holdup? In fact, most people are much more focused on the world of Pikmin rather than the actual story. In Pikmin 2, sure, we gotta collect treasures, but oh my god, it's a Duracell battery. How did that even end up here? If this is Earth, where is everyone? Why are most of these objects in pristine condition? But we kind of forget the actual plot going on. Olimar needs to get home. Olimar needs money. The Copites need food. The crew needs rescued. It's all pretty simple. However, what has always stuck out, especially for fans, are the actual characters taking on the tasks. Sure, the plot of Pikmin 1 is simple, but who doesn't love Olimar and the notes that he takes? The story is thin, but the fact that every night we hear what's going through Olimar's head as the stress builds, or he feels guilt, or he feels excited at which parts he finds, is what really sticks in our minds. Everyone loves the president in Pikmin 2. I find him relatable. Not the high position or the money, but because he's fat and talks a lot. The Copites are all super charming, and yeah, while Pikmin 4's characters tend to be pretty flat, the amount of them around you really makes your base feel alive, and characters like the Sage Leaf are legitimately great. But above all, the only one that ever compares to Olimar in terms of how much people talk about them is, of course, Louie. Louie is one of the most hated Nintendo characters, mostly in a good way, but people cannot stand this guy. He's seen as evil, cruel, and vile. It's basically canonical that he probably eats Pikmin and killed whatever family he has besides his grandma. What a prick. And while some of that is true, and some of it is false, it doesn't change the fact that Louie is my absolute favorite Pikmin character. Louie has as much character as Olimar with half of the dialogue. He doesn't talk much, hell, he doesn't do much, but what he says and does is so loud that he will wedge himself into your brain permanently. And it's funny because where Olimar gains more depth and more likability throughout the series, Louie gets worse, starting as just kind of some prick and ending with him trying to murder you for the second time. When you first play Pikmin 2, you might just see him as another Olimar for 2-player and the 2-captain dynamic, but then you find out every problem was caused by him and now he's making it everyone else's problem. Hell, that's what Louie does. He finds himself in a slightly negative situation and now he's going to make it everyone else's problem before he's sedated and forced to go home. And that's what I really want to go over in this video. Why is Louie the way he is? What character traits truly define him? And why do I love him so goddamn much? But before we analyze him, a quick summary of what Louie has done throughout the series. Look, I know most people watching the video might have already played these games, and if you haven't, do it now, you big asshole, especially play 4, so Nintendo ports it to Switch 2. But explaining the plot will give context to specific moments that I'm going to mention later on, and also give a perfect picture of why this bastard is so hated. Louie first shows up in Pikmin 2 as Olimar's help when returning to PNF 404 to collect treasure, basically human garbage that's worth a ton back on Alamar's home planet, Hokotate. Louie doesn't seem thrilled, but at the same time he doesn't seem interested in anything, and is freaked out by Pikmin, which is funny. But early on we learn that their business is dying because of a mission Louie went on and failed to transport rare carrots. Now, it said he got attacked by a space rabbit, and at this point we don't have a reason to doubt that. But you repay the debt, head home, and he is fucking gone. But we see Louie kind of just wandering around the planet, relaxing, weirdly comfortable. After all, when Olimar was stranded here, he panicked, but Louie is just kind of fine. But when we return, he's gone. And upon going through one of the game's longest and most difficult dungeons, oh no, he's been kidnapped by the final boss. Except here's where Louie's character starts to flip and we actually get a picture of who he is. While it seemed like he was kidnapped, the game reveals that he was controlling the Titan Dweevil, trying to kill you. And if you get every treasure, you find out the entire bankruptcy thing, the debt, his fault. He ate his entire shipment just because. Louie basically leaves this game making you think, what the fuck? Why did he do all that? Was it a lapse in judgment? Is he just psychotic? Why? Then in Pikmin 3, he returns, being rescued by the Kopites when they're looking for Olimar. He's passed out after being attacked by the Scornet Maestro, and here he actually was kidnapped and in legitimate danger. So immediately in a better spot with us as players when we save him, the next morning he steals all of your juice, which is intrinsically linked to your days remaining, books it, and explodes. God damn it. This is the game that seals Louie as a bastard. In 2, he was hinted to be a prick and maybe someone with issues around food, but here, he nerfs you heavily and then gets attacked again, causing another boss fight in order to save him. He has to be tied up so that he doesn't pull that shit again, and Olimar has to apologize for him profusely. But it all gets even more insane in Pikmin 4. 4 may or may not be a different continuity, but Louie? No, he's the same. You go through the first half of the game thinking Olimar was alone or this was a retelling of the first game until, what is he doing here? What is he? Oh, and he stole moss. Olimar in this game starts as an antagonist on accident. He's turned into a Pikmin person hybrid known as a Leafling. Meanwhile, Louie does the same shit Olimar does while just being his normal self. He constantly runs away from you, tries to steal from you, tries to turn people into Leaflings, and when all fails, once again buries himself in the ground and tries to kill you. But here, there's no question about if he's outright fighting you. And once the game ends, he just leaves with Olimar. He shows up, and his only punishment is that Olimar basically goes, oh, that silly Louie. And it's like, dude, the man totally went ballistic. He was outright the villain. In Pikmin 4, Louie isn't an obstacle. He's not a slight nuisance. He's not an enemy due to circumstance. He is actively malicious. So here's where we're gonna really dig in and ask, what the fuck is this guy's problem? Like, he's straight up an attempted murderer. He fucks with you gameplay-wise. He tries to turn multiple people into Leaflings. What the hell? And that's where I think a lot of the fanbase really doubles down on their hatred. Louie does this because he's a psychopath. Because he takes joy from hurting others. He eats Pikmin. He'd stab Olimar if he could. He's probably a serial killer who collects people's teeth. And while to an extent, I get it, I feel like people are very much missing the obvious reasons why Louie is the way that he is. Why he is such a perfect mirror to someone like Olimar. He's not this extreme psychopathic murderer. He's selfish. Really selfish. Louie's main defining character trait is his selfishness. His actions, his goals, everything he does is 100% focused on personal gain and pleasure. The reason it feels so intensely extreme is, well, that, but also because Louie contrasts so much with Olimar. Throughout the first game, Olimar is portrayed as the opposite. He's selfless. Yeah, he uses Pikmin to get himself back home, but he's also trying to raise their numbers. He feels guilt whenever one dies. He constantly talks about his family, how much he misses them, and how much he hopes they're okay. In future Pikmin games, his care for others is even more emphasized. He has email conversations with his family in 2. In 3, he helps the 3 protagonists get home and records guides for other wayward explorers. In 4, after he's rescued, he helps out your crew, giving advice and just in general being friendly. Hell, the Piccolopedia is written by him, showing both a fascination for the planet and also warning those who come after him of potential dangers. He's someone who fights for his own survival while also deeply caring for the people and the life around him. Louie does not. Louie is out for himself. The only reason he comes to the planet in the first place is to escape the consequences of eating his last shipment. His reaction to Pikmin is to look at them like they ruined his day. He also has a Piccolopedia. It's about how he'd cook and eat every monster. Louie is not concerned with how the ecosystem works, only how he can benefit from it. Louie is hyper-focused on escaping responsibility and enjoying himself alone. If left to his own devices, his only goal is to run away and eat, and when challenged on that, he goes ballistic. horrific. Take Pikmin 2, the first time he tries to kill you. Originally, I thought it was revenge for leaving him on the dangerous hostile planet, but no, I don't think he was forgotten. I think he dipped at the last second. In those cutscenes, he's not panicking, he's not running, he's relaxing, hanging out. He's finally alone, free from responsibility, and instead just able to pamper himself, gorge himself on the wildlife, and be in literally no danger. After all, he's got Pikmin. And his response to Olimar's return for him is honestly in character when you look at it. Olimar not only came back for him, but brought his boss. Not only is he gonna have to go back home, he's gonna have to go back to work. Fuck it. Giant spider. In Pikmin 3, he doesn't actively try to escape Olimar. In fact, the two are separated on accident. I was wrong. In the Olimar content on the Switch version, he does try to run away at one point, but only like once, and he comes back. But what does he do the second he's in a safe spot? Steals your food, runs away, and of course explodes. Now, this is twofold. One, it's explained he actually assumed these people kidnapped him and weren't on his side, so to an extent, it makes sense. But he also steals all of your food as he runs. He was killing two birds with one stone. Escape the kidnappers, and also while he's at it, try again at that plan of escaping to live on the Pikmin planet while easily having a stockpile of food, only to be tied up and forced to go back home. And obviously he deserves it, but from his perspective, literally everyone is making his life worse. Why won't they just abandon him? And then in Pikmin 4, he is the main antagonist. Look, this game is debated on if it's a new canon or a sequel to the old one, but either way, Louie becoming a villain here honestly fit, as he is only a villain by circumstance. Once again, he has what he wants. No job, no selfless prick nagging him, an ecosystem to take advantage of, and oh, sick, a dog to help him out. And yet you and all these other assholes keep following him. Now, as for turning people into leaflings, I'll give you one thing. It's never confirmed why he does it. It could be because he's a monster. It could be because he knows leaflings won't suffocate from the oxygen in the air. And we'll touch on that later. But either way, he's still doing it, and then burying himself and trying to kill you with a giant ancient dog. All of this because he wants to be left alone to live in his vices, and that is always consistent. In all of these games, he's trying to escape responsibility and live a life of luxury and laziness, and yet you keep chasing him and asking him to do shit. He almost had it in 2. He came close in 3, and in 4, he outright had it, and you are trying to take it from him. Louie isn't evil for evil's sake. He doesn't outwardly want to hurt you. He just wants to be left alone. In 2 and 4, the reason he buries himself upon you showing up is purely to avoid you. If you stayed away from him, this wouldn't be an issue, but he also simultaneously finds himself in the exact situations and locations you need to be. He's the main goal in 2, he's got info you need in 3, and he's riding the exact dog you need to cure Ochi, but that shit doesn't matter to him. He is trying to vibe, and you invaded his safe space. Die. Louie is a man of extremes. He is so desperate to escape that shitty day job and the constant judgment of those around him that he will literally murder you over it. Yet, there's always some humanity to it. Like, I think we get it. We all hate dead-end jobs, we have selfish intentions, and we can all be petty pricks sometimes when others get involved. If he existed in real life, he might have started a YouTube channel, talked about games and characters, called it Cold a Fact Guy or something like that. But on the Pikmin planet, he has power, and he's gonna use it. Olimar and other protagonists see Pikmin as not something they necessarily want to use for their own ends, but something they have to use, and they all form close bonds with them. The Pikmin always see Olimar off whenever he leaves the planet to go back home. They tend to be out of their onions to greet him. In exchange for their help, perhaps by accident, he repopulates their species. They have a symbiotic relationship that he goes out of his way to make prosper, and that's followed by the other captains. But what about Louie? Well, a lot of people, honestly myself included at times, portray Louie as just straight up eating Pikmin, being as selfish towards them as he is towards everyone, treating them the same as he would a Bulborb he wants to grow up, or just ripping off their legs like a crazy 7-year-old without adult supervision. But in all honesty, that's not actually true. There's no evidence of Louie ever actually deliberately hurting Pikmin or trying to eat them. And hell, there's a lot of evidence to the opposite. Louie immediately adapts to using Pikmin, and how else would he have survived alone without them? He needs them to get his dinner, and honestly, how else would he have taken over the Titan Dweevil? In Pikmin 4, he doesn't try to eat Moss, he just hitches a ride and at worst abandons her when things get too hot. This tells me personally that Louie uses Pikmin the same as everyone else. Does this mean he has the same relationship? No, I don't think so. But I do think whether he means to or not, he keeps the symbiosis going on accident. Louie needs the Pikmin and indirectly helps them take down prey and reproduce, and in turn, he gets what he wants. To me, it just seems seems like a group of Pikmin dying wouldn't bother him much. After all, he probably has more. This may sound horrible, but keep in mind, we go against Olimar multiple times in Dandori battles, and he doesn't hold a candle to Louie. Louie is much better at controlling Pikmin and gathering resources. So not only is this a place where Louie can be alone, it's a place where he thrives. It's a place where Olimar obviously thrives too, but the difference is Olimar wants to go home. He has pride in his work and a family he cares about. Louie doesn't, and that's what makes Louie's selfishness turn into malice like it does. Louie is in his element. He has infinite food and recipes to try, an army that gives him complete control of his situation, and most of all, he's finally alone, and everyone is trying to take that from him. They want to kidnap him, drag him back home, randomly annoy him all the time, and steal his dog. What other choice does he have? I mean, a ton of choices, but when you're as selfish as Louie, the only answer is violence. And it's not like he's completely vile. Again, let's look at that leafling thing. Sure, it could be out of spite, but think of it like this. If he takes them to the camp, he gets pulled back in with Olimar and has to go home. If he just leaves these bodies here, they'll die of the poisonous oxygen in the air once their suits give out. And it would seem Louie doesn't actively want people dead, especially if their only crime was ending up in the same situation he's in without the advantage. So his attempt to turn them into leaflings is basically just, fine, I'll make it so you can breathe, but that's it. And I honestly don't think he's necessarily out to kill you just to get you to leave. His weapons almost always target Pikmin, which makes sense if again you realize that Louie only uses them as tools. So he probably thinks you see them as disposable too. And once enough are dead, you'll have to leave. It's not about wanting to kill you or hurt others, it's about wanting to be left alone. And hey, if worse comes to worse, he will kill you for it. After all, the only one to benefit from it is him. It's like this. If Louie had one wish on a genie, he would probably either wish to be completely alone with infinite food, or for every Hokotation to die all at once so it's only him left on the planet. It reaches his goal the same way, it's just that one would probably be easier and of less cost. Does Louie hate everyone? Yes. Does he want everyone dead? I mean, if they aren't in his way and aren't bugging him, who cares about them? Louie is an absolute bastard, but you get hints that he knows this. And if you just leave him be, he's not gonna bother anyone. His selfishness no longer affects anyone but him, but we keep pushing his button. And what exactly are we doing? Good deeds. Stopping a food shortage on Kopai, saving Ochi and other explorers, saving him, and he refuses to step aside because he is a motherfucker. And if you even slightly inconvenience him, there is hell to pay. This is why Louie is my favorite character. A lot of people saw Louie's actions in Pikmin 4 as him fully going off the deep end, but his characterization is just as consistent as always. It's just now he has the spotlight. He's not a side character or an obstacle, he's the main focus, and he's the most aggressive here. When I was dealing with him, I had a big ass smile on my face because this was the Louie I knew. This was the bastard I remembered, and now he had all the power in the world. I remember my wife being furious every time he showed up, but I absolutely loved it. Louie is the worst, yes, but it's how he's the worst that's the most entertaining to me. Normally the villains of Pikmin are just the predators of the Pikmin themselves. Emperor Bulblax, in a way the Titan Dweeble, whatever the fuck the Plasm Wraith's deal is. But here, it's Louie. Louie works as an antagonist here more than ever, not just because it makes sense, but also it works with the game's themes. Pikmin 4 has a massive focus on community, on everyone pitching in. Hell, you have a partner in Ochi, and the second half is about curing his leaf tail. So who would have worked better as an antagonist than the one Pikmin character who can't stand other people? Now, I'm not claiming that Louie is an amazing character, and if you hate him, you're wrong. He's made to be hated. He's a food-stealing, life-ruining gremlin man who's only out for himself, but it's in that consistency that I find both entertainment and depth. Louie is more than a one-dimensional prick. He's a character that despite despising, you can understand to a point where he's coming from, but he just goes way too far. But for me, the farther he goes, honestly, the funnier he gets. That might be the part of him I love most. He's just really funny. All the stupid bullshit, him turning people into leaflings, him taking over the Sire Hound, my sides exploded. You don't really realize how hilarious these tiny little characters are, but when one acts so maliciously, it really puts it into perspective. Hell, even in his Piccolopedia, which I've already mentioned, Olimar's is detailed, full of personality and observation, where Louie's is cooking instructions. Not even short ones. He goes into detail about how every bit can be used and on which foods they'll work as toppings. It's hilarious how in-depth he gets. It not only adds to his obsession with food, but also adds to the comedy. Yeah, all he wants to do is eat, but when that's all you want to do, you're gonna want some more unique recipes. In a game where most of the characterization is centered on Olimar, to make a sequel with new characters, you had to have them match him, and by God, they did it. Louie, I would say, is on the same level of memorability and status in the series as Olimar. Where one is, the other follows, and I have to say, I could not be happier. Louie is Pikmin and probably Nintendo's most hateable character, and that is why me and thousands of others absolutely love him. If you hate him, you probably love to hate him. And what's best about it is he doesn't give a fuck. Louie is a brave, moisturized, professional chef and asexual king, and I love him. Whenever I'm talking about Pikmin Pass 2, I'm probably gonna mention this guy. Originally, when I put him on the poll, I questioned if I could make a whole video on him, which obviously at this point I've had plenty to say, but also I felt weird for my first Pikmin video to be on a character. My first Phoenix Wright, SMT, or Persona video? Sure, but Pikmin? That felt weird. But truly, I couldn't think of a better way to introduce my love of this series. It's a series where even if the story isn't the focus, its characters tend to be slam dunks, especially ones like Olimar and Louie. And it wasn't until now where I could finally see how well these two complemented each other, and how much Louie's actions make sense in conjunction with his characterization. If there is a Pikmin 5, which honestly I don't think there needs to be, I would be totally happy if he came back yet again. Although I would honestly rather enjoy Louie being the antagonist in 4K at 60 FPS on Switch 2 if Nintendo wants to quit fingering their fucking belly button for 5 seconds, but that's not what this video is about. All that I want to close out with is that if you looked at my video and your first thought was, I unabashedly hate that dumb bastard with all my heart, ask yourself, do you hate him because he's a bad character? Or do you hate him because he was an incredibly well-written character you were meant to hate? I would always vote the latter when it comes to Louie. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the guy who's never coming back.